Millionaire came for his debt from a black woman, but everything changed when he saw her with 3 children. The rain poured hard that evening in Atlanta, turning the streets into rivers that reflected the glow of streetlights and the weight of 1,000 unspoken sorrows. Inside a small, run-down apartment on the east side of the city, Naomi Carter sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by a pile of envelopes she'd been avoiding for weeks. Her hands trembled as she finally reached for the one stamped in bold red letters. Final notice. Wells Estate Holdings, the company that now owned her late husband's business loan, the company that had the power to take away the only home her children had ever known. Naomi pressed her fingers to her temples and closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. She couldn't afford to break down. Not now. Not when her 3 babies were asleep in the next room, trusting that their mama would find a way to keep them safe. She had been doing everything humanly possible, working 2 jobs, skipping meals so her kids could eat, staying up until 3 in the morning, scrubbing floors at an office building while her neighbor watched her children. But no matter how hard she worked, no matter how many hours she put in, the numbers never added up. The debt her husband left behind was drowning her, and she was running out of air. Marcus had been a good man, a dreamer. He'd taken out a business loan to start a landscaping company, convinced it would give their family the life they deserved. And for a while, it had. Business was growing, the kids were happy, life felt full of promise. But then came that rainy night 2 years ago, a drunk driver, a highway, and just like that, Marcus was gone. Naomi was left alone with 3 children under the age of 7 and a mountain of debt she never signed up for. She'd tried everything. She'd called the bank, explained her situation, begged for more time. But they didn't care about her story. They cared about payments, about profit, about the bottom line. And when Wells Estate Holdings bought out the loan 6 months ago, she knew things were only going to get worse. She'd heard the stories. This company didn't negotiate. They didn't do payment plans. They collected what they were owed, no matter who got hurt in the process. But Naomi wasn't the type to give up, so she picked up her pen and started writing. Another letter, her 6th one this month. She didn't beg, she refused to beg, but she wrote with honesty, with dignity, explaining that she wasn't running from her responsibility. She just needed time. Time to catch her breath, time to build something stable for her babies. She ended the letter the way she always did. My children have already lost their father. Please, let me keep their home. She sealed the envelope, set it on top of the pile, and finally let the tears she'd been holding back fall silently down her face. What Naomi didn't know was that at that very moment, across town in a glass tower that overlooked the glittering Atlanta skyline, the CEO of Wells Estate Holdings was sitting in his corner office, reading her words. Adrian Cole held Naomi's letter in his hands, the city lights glowing like distant stars behind him. He'd read hundreds of letters like this before, desperate pleas from people drowning in debt, asking for mercy, for more time, for a miracle. Most of them were filled with excuses, with blame, with emotions that clouded the facts. But this one was different. Before we continue, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because Naomi and Adrian's story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next. There was no desperation in Naomi's words, no excuses, no blame, just quiet, unshakable strength. Just a mother fighting for her children with everything she had, refusing to crumble under the weight of a world that seemed determined to break her. Adrian read the letter once, then twice, then a 3rd time, and with each reading, something inside him stirred, something he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten it was there. Adrian Cole was not a man who made decisions based on emotion. He'd built a multi-million-dollar empire on logic, on strategy, on the cold, hard reality that business was business and sentiment had no place in it. He didn't get to where he was by being soft. He'd learned early on, through loss and pain, that caring too much would destroy you, so he'd stopped caring, stopped letting people in, stopped feeling anything at all. But as he sat there in his pristine office, holding a letter from a woman he'd never met, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity, respect, maybe even something deeper. He pressed the intercom button on his desk, His assistant's voice crackled through. "Yes, Mr. Cole? Pull the full file on Naomi Carter. I want every detail. Payment history, employment records, everything." There was a pause on the other end. "Sir, is there a problem with the account?" "No," Adrian said quietly. "Just pull it, and clear my schedule for tomorrow morning. I'm going to visit the property myself." Another pause. Longer this time. "Sir, you never do site visits for collections." "I know," Adrian said, his voice firm but not unkind, "but I'm doing this one." He hung up before his assistant could ask any more questions. Adrian leaned back in his chair and stared out at the city below. He didn't know why this particular case had gotten under his skin. Maybe it was the tone of the letter. Maybe it was the fact that Naomi Carter wasn't asking for a handout, just a fair chance. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because her words reminded him of something he'd lost a long time ago: compassion. The next morning, Adrian pulled up to Naomi's apartment building in his black sedan. The neighborhood was a far cry from the luxury he was accustomed to. The buildings were old, their paint peeling in places, windows cracked and patched with tape, but it was clean. People swept their stoops. Flowers grew in window boxes. This was a community that took care of what little it had. Adrian stepped out of the car, straightened his charcoal suit, and took a breath. He wasn't sure what he was expecting, but he knew this visit mattered. He walked up the narrow staircase to the second floor, his shoes echoing on the worn wooden steps, and stopped in front of apartment 2C. He knocked twice, firm, professional. For a moment, there was only silence. Then he heard footsteps, light, hesitant. The door opened, and Naomi Carter stood before him. She was younger than he'd imagined, maybe early 30s. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, a few strands falling loose around her face. She wore no makeup, and her clothes were clean but worn, the kind you wear when you're making every dollar stretch. But it was her eyes that struck him most. They were tired, yes, exhausted even, but they weren't defeated. There was fire there, strength, a refusal to give up. Her face went pale the moment she saw him. "Mr. Cole?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Adrian nodded. "Yes, I'm here about the loan." Naomi's hand tightened on the doorframe. She swallowed hard, clearly trying to hold herself together. "I've been paying what I can," she said quickly, her voice trembling but steady. "I know I'm behind, but I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm doing everything I can." Before Adrian could respond, a small voice interrupted from inside the apartment. "Mama, is he from Daddy's work?" Adrian looked down. A little boy, no more than 4 years old, stood just behind Naomi, clutching a cracked red toy truck in his small hands. His wide brown eyes stared up at Adrian with innocent curiosity, completely unaware of the weight his mother was carrying. Behind him stood 2 little girls. One, maybe 6 years old, with her hair in neat pigtails, peeked shyly from behind her brother. The other, around 5, held a worn teddy bear close to her chest, its fur matted from years of love. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. He'd come here prepared to be firm, prepared to lay out the terms, explain the reality of debt, and make it clear that business couldn't run on emotions. He'd rehearsed it in his head on the drive over. But standing there, looking at those 3 children, all of his carefully constructed walls began to crack. Naomi turned and gently placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "Go play with your sisters, baby. Mama's talking to someone important." The boy hesitated, his eyes still locked on Adrian. "Is he gonna help us, Mama?" Naomi's face crumpled for just a second before she pulled it back together. "Go on now, sweetheart," she said softly. The boy nodded and disappeared into the small living room, his sisters following close behind. Naomi turned back to Adrian, her jaw set, her hands clasped tightly in front of her to keep them from shaking. "I'm sorry about that," she said. "They don't understand what's happening. I've tried to keep it from them." Adrian's voice was quieter than he intended. "May I come in?" Naomi hesitated. For a moment, he thought she might say no, but then she stepped aside and opened the door wider. Of course. Adrian walked into the apartment, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. The place was tiny, barely big enough for one person, let alone a mother and 3 children. But it was immaculate. The floors were swept clean. The furniture, though old and mismatched, was arranged with care. A small couch with faded cushions, a wooden coffee table that had seen better days, a kitchen table with 4 chairs, one of them wobbly, but it was the walls that hit him hardest. They were covered in children's drawings, dozens of them, taped up with care. Stick figures labeled Mommy, Daddy, Me. Pictures of houses with sunshine and flowers. One drawing, done in bright crayon, said, "Mommy's Heroes," across the top. This wasn't the home of someone who had given up. This was the home of someone who was fighting with every ounce of strength they had. Adrian stood in the center of the small living room, taking it all in. He could hear the children playing in the next room, their laughter soft and sweet. Naomi crossed her arms, her posture defensive but dignified. "I know what this looks like," she said quietly. "I know we don't have much, but I take care of my kids. They're fed, they're clean, they're loved, and I'm doing everything I can to keep this roof over their heads." Adrian turned to face her. "I can see that." Naomi blinked, surprised by his tone. "You can?" "I can," Adrian said. He walked over to the small kitchen table, where a neat stack of bills sat beside a calendar marked with shift schedules and school events. He glanced at the papers. Rent, utilities, groceries, medical co-pays. Every dollar accounted for, every expense necessary. "You work 2 jobs, he said. It wasn't a question. "I do," Naomi replied. "Cafeteria at the elementary school during the day, cleaning crew at an office building at night. And the children. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, watches them when I'm on my night shift. She's been good to us. Doesn't charge me much." Adrian nodded slowly. He turned back to her, his expression unreadable. "How long has it been since your husband passed?" Naomi's voice softened, the edge of defensiveness fading. 2 years this October. "And you've been doing this alone the whole time?" She nodded. "Yes." Adrian was silent for a long moment. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he hadn't expected to see. Not weakness, not defeat, but resilience, grace, a kind of strength that money couldn't buy. And then he said something that surprised even himself. "You don't need to worry about the debt anymore." Naomi's eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "What?" she finally whispered. "I'm not here to collect," Adrian said gently. "I'm here to help." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she shook her head, her voice trembling. "I don't understand. I promised I'd pay. Just give me a little more time. I'll figure it out. I always do." "You don't have to," Adrian said, his voice calm and sincere. "The debt is cleared." Naomi took a step back, shaking her head more firmly now. "No, I can't accept charity. I won't." "It's not charity," Adrian said. "It's a partnership." She stared at him, confusion and disbelief written all over her face. Adrian took a breath and continued. "I run an outreach foundation through my company. We help families who are trying to get back on their feet, families like yours. I'd like to offer you a position, administrative work, coordinating with other families who need support, steady hours, decent pay, benefits." Naomi's hand went to her mouth. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this for me?" Adrian looked at her, and for the first time in years, he let his guard down. He let her see past the suit, past the wealth, past the carefully controlled exterior. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone," he said quietly. "And I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning and no one's throwing you a line." Naomi's tears spilled over. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Adrian didn't move. He just stood there, giving her the space to feel what she needed to feel. After a moment, she lowered her hands and looked at him, her eyes red but filled with something that looked like hope. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Adrian said simply. "Let me help." Naomi wiped her eyes and nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Okay, yes, thank you." Adrian extended his hand. She looked at it for a moment, then reached out and shook it. Her grip was firm despite the tears, despite the overwhelming emotion flooding through her. "Thank you," she said again, her voice breaking. "You don't have to thank me," Adrian said. "Just show up, do the work, help other families the way I'm helping you." She nodded, unable to speak. As Adrian turned to leave, the little boy appeared again, peeking around the corner, still clutching his toy truck. "Mister?" he called out softly. Adrian stopped and looked down at him. "Yes?" Are you gonna help my mama? Adrian felt something crack wide open in his chest. He knelt down slowly, meeting the boy at eye level. I am, he said. The boy smiled, a wide, gap-toothed grin that lit up his whole face. Thank you, mister. Adrian reached out and gently ruffled the boy's hair. What's your name? Elijah. Well, Elijah, Adrian said, his voice soft. You take care of your mama, okay? She's doing a really good job. Elijah nodded seriously. I will. Adrian stood and glanced back at Naomi, who was watching the exchange with tears streaming down her face. I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow with the details, he said. Naomi nodded. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Adrian, he said. Just call me Adrian. And with that, he walked out of the apartment, down the narrow stairs, and back to his car. As he sat behind the wheel, staring up at the building, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose, not the hollow satisfaction of closing a deal or expanding his empire, but real, deep, soul-filling purpose. He didn't know it yet, but that visit had changed everything, not just for Naomi Carter, but for him too. Over the next 2 weeks, Adrian kept his word. His assistant reached out to Naomi with all the details of her new position. The pay was more than she'd made in both of her jobs combined. The hours were reasonable, and for the first time in 2 years, she didn't have to choose between paying the electric bill and buying her kids new shoes. Naomi couldn't believe it was real. She kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to tell her it was all a mistake. But it never happened. Adrian had meant every word. Her first day at the foundation, Naomi was nervous. She wore the nicest outfit she owned, a simple black dress she'd bought from a thrift store years ago, and arrived 15 minutes early. The foundation's office was beautiful, modern and bright, nothing like the cramped, fluorescent-lit spaces she was used to. Adrian met her in the lobby himself. Good morning, Naomi, he said with a warm smile. Good morning, Mr. Cole, she replied, then corrected herself. I mean, Adrian. He chuckled. Come on, let me show you around. He introduced her to the team, showed her the office, explained her responsibilities. Naomi would be coordinating outreach efforts, connecting with families in need, helping them navigate resources and support systems. It was work that mattered, work that would actually help people. And for the first time in a long time, Naomi felt like she had a purpose beyond just survival. As the days turned into weeks, Naomi settled into her new role. She was good at it, really good. She understood what these families were going through because she'd lived it. She knew the fear, the exhaustion, the quiet desperation, and she knew how to talk to them with dignity and respect. Adrian noticed. He found himself checking in on her progress more often than necessary, stopping by her desk to see how things were going, asking her opinion on cases, and slowly, without either of them really realizing it, their conversations began to shift. They started talking about more than just work, about life, about loss, about what it meant to keep going when everything felt impossible. One afternoon, after a particularly long day, Adrian knocked on Naomi's office door. Got a minute? He asked. Of course, Naomi said, looking up from her computer. Adrian stepped inside and closed the door behind him. I wanted to thank you, he said. Naomi frowned, confused. For what? For the work you're doing. You've made a real difference here. The families we're helping, they trust you. They open up to you in ways they don't with anyone else. Naomi's cheeks warmed. I'm just doing my job. No, Adrian said, shaking his head. You're doing more than that. You're giving them hope, and that's not something you can teach. Naomi didn't know what to say. She looked down at her hands, suddenly feeling vulnerable. I know what it's like to need hope, she said quietly. You gave that to me. I'm just passing it on. Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. Can I ask you something personal? Naomi looked up. Sure. Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're not really living? Naomi's breath caught. She hadn't expected that kind of honesty from him. Every day, she admitted. For the last 2 years, I've just been surviving, making sure my kids are okay, making sure we don't lose everything. But living? I'm not sure I remember how. Adrian nodded slowly, his expression distant. I know that feeling. They sat in silence for a moment, Two people who'd been through their own kinds of hell, recognizing something in each other. "Can I tell you something?" Adrian said. "Of course. I lost my wife 6 years ago," he said, his voice low. "She died in childbirth. Our daughter didn't make it either." Naomi's heart broke for him. "Adrian, I'm so sorry." He gave a sad smile. "After that, I shut down. I threw myself into work, built the company bigger, made more money, told myself it was enough, but it wasn't. I was just hiding. And now?" Naomi asked gently. Adrian looked at her, and there was something raw and real in his eyes. "Now I'm starting to think maybe it's time to stop hiding." Naomi felt her pulse quicken. There was something in the way he was looking at her, something that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. "I think that's brave," she said softly. "I think you're brave," Adrian replied. Every single day, they held each other's gaze for a long moment, and in that silence, something unspoken passed between them, something neither of them was ready to name yet, but something that felt undeniable. Finally, Adrian stood. "I should let you get back to work," he said. Naomi nodded, though part of her didn't want him to leave. "Thank you for sharing that with me," she said. "Thank you for listening," Adrian replied. And as he left her office, Naomi sat back in her chair, her heart beating a little faster, wondering if maybe, just maybe, life was about to surprise her again. Have you ever felt a connection with someone you weren't expecting? Drop a comment and let me know. And don't forget to hit that like button if you're invested in Naomi and Adrian's journey. Over the following weeks, something shifted between Naomi and Adrian. It was subtle at first. The way he'd linger a little longer when he stopped by her desk, the way she'd find herself looking for him when she arrived at work in the morning, the way their professional conversations would drift into something more personal, more intimate. Adrian started asking about her children, not in a polite, passing way, but with genuine interest. He wanted to know their names, their personalities, what made them laugh. Naomi found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone since Marcus died. "Elijah is my wild child," she told him one afternoon over coffee in the break room. "He's got so much energy. I don't know where he gets it from. Definitely not from me." Adrian smiled. "And the girls?" "Zara is my oldest. She's 6, going on 16. So serious, so responsible. Sometimes I worry she's growing up too fast, trying to help me with everything." Naomi's expression softened. "And Maya, she's my baby, 5 years old and still believes in magic. She thinks every butterfly is a fairy, and every star is a wish waiting to happen." "They sound incredible," Adrian said. "They are," Naomi replied, her voice thick with emotion. "They're the reason I keep going, the reason I couldn't give up, even when everything felt impossible." Adrian was quiet for a moment, then said something that surprised her. "I'd like to meet them. Properly, I mean, if that's okay with you." Naomi's heart skipped. "You want to meet my kids?" "I do," Adrian said simply. "I know this is all new, whatever this is between us. But I don't want to just know the professional you. I want to know all of you, and they're a huge part of who you are." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. Marcus had been gone for 2 years, and in all that time she'd built walls around her heart, convinced that she'd never let anyone in again, that her life was about her children now, and nothing else mattered. But Adrian was different. He didn't push, he didn't demand. He just showed up, consistently, genuinely, and made her feel like, maybe, just maybe, she deserved more than just survival. "Okay," she said softly. "How about dinner at my place this Saturday? Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and whatever chaos 3 kids bring to a table." Adrian's face lit up. "I'd love that." Saturday came faster than Naomi expected. She spent the morning cleaning the apartment, even though it was already spotless. She cooked a big pot of spaghetti, made garlic bread from scratch, and tried to calm the nervous flutter in her stomach. The kids sensed something was different. "Mama, why are you so nervous?" Zara asked, watching her mother check the table settings for the 3rd time. "I'm not nervous, baby," Naomi lied. "Yes, you are," Zara said matter-of-factly. "You only cook garlic bread when something important is happening." Naomi laughed despite herself. "You're too smart for your own good, you know that?" When the doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock, all 3 children ran to the door. Naomi had to gently pull them back. "Let Mama get it first, okay? And remember your manners." She opened the door, and there stood Adrian, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, holding a bakery box and looking almost as nervous as she felt. "Hi," he said. "Hi," Naomi replied, smiling. "Come in." Adrian stepped inside, and immediately 3 pairs of eyes locked onto him. Elijah was the first to speak. "You're the man who helped Mama." Adrian knelt down to Elijah's level. "I am. And you're Elijah, right? The one with the red truck?" Elijah's eyes went wide. "You remember?" "Of course I do," Adrian said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small toy car, bright blue and shiny. "I brought you something. Thought your red truck might like a friend." Elijah gasped and took the car like it was made of gold. "Thank you." Zara stepped forward, her arms crossed, assessing Adrian with a seriousness far beyond her years. "Are you Mama's friend?" she asked. "I am," Adrian said honestly, "and I hope I can be yours too." Zara considered this. "Mama doesn't have a lot of friends. Just us and Mrs. Thompson." "Then I'm honored," Adrian said. Maya, the youngest, tugged on Adrian's sleeve. "Did you bring us something too?" Adrian smiled and opened the bakery box, revealing a beautifully decorated cake. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got chocolate. Is that okay?" Maya's face lit up. "I love chocolate." Naomi watched the whole exchange with her heart in her throat. She'd been so afraid of this moment, afraid that bringing someone new into their lives would feel like a betrayal of Marcus, or that her kids wouldn't accept it. But watching Adrian kneel on her worn carpet, talking to her children like they mattered, like they were important, something inside her began to heal. Dinner was loud and chaotic and perfect. Elijah talked non-stop about his preschool. Zara asked Adrian a million questions about his job, his car, his favorite color. Maya insisted on showing him every single one of her drawings, which took up most of the meal. Adrian listened to all of it with genuine interest. He laughed at Elijah's jokes. He complimented Zara's intelligence. He told Maya her drawings were museum-worthy. And when Naomi caught his eye across the table, the look he gave her made her breath catch. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was something deeper, something real. After dinner, while Naomi cleaned up the kitchen, Adrian sat on the floor with the kids, helping Elijah build a tower out of blocks while the girls colored beside him. "You're really good with them," Naomi said softly, watching from the doorway. Adrian looked up and smiled. "They're really good kids." "They are," Naomi agreed. "But not everyone sees that. Not everyone wants to take the time." Adrian stood and walked over to her, lowering his voice so the children wouldn't hear. "Naomi, I'm not here because I feel obligated. I'm here because I want to be. Because being around you and your kids makes me feel something I haven't felt in years." "What's that?" she whispered. "Alive," he said simply. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Adrian, I don't know how to do this. I haven't let anyone close since Marcus died. I don't even know if I remember how." Adrian reached out and gently took her hand. "Then we figure it out together. No pressure, no expectations, just us, taking it one day at a time." Naomi looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face, and for the first time in 2 years, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this. Deserved to be happy again. Deserved to be loved. "Okay," she whispered, "one day at a time." Adrian squeezed her hand gently, and in that moment, surrounded by the sound of her children's laughter and the warmth of his presence, Naomi felt something she thought she'd lost forever: hope. As the weeks turned into months, Adrian became a regular presence in their lives. He showed up for Elijah's preschool graduation, cheering louder than anyone else in the room. He helped Zara with her math homework, patiently explaining fractions until she finally understood. He sat through countless tea parties with Maya and her stuffed animals, drinking imaginary tea with the utmost seriousness. And slowly, carefully, he and Naomi grew closer. They started going on walks after the kids were asleep, talking about everything and nothing, about their pasts, their fears, their dreams for the future. Adrian told her more about his late wife, Elizabeth, and the daughter they'd named Hope. He talked about the guilt he carried, the feeling that he should have been able to save them somehow. Naomi listened without judgment, holding space for his pain the way he'd held space for hers. "It wasn't your fault. she told him one night as they sat on the steps outside her apartment building, the city quiet around them. You can't control everything, no matter how much money or power you have. I know that logically, Adrian said, but my heart doesn't always agree. I understand, Naomi said softly. I spent the first year after Marcus died wondering if there was something I could have done differently, if I'd asked him to stay home that night, if I'd convinced him to take a different route, maybe he'd still be here. But you can't live in the what-ifs, Adrian said gently. No, Naomi agreed. You can't. And eventually, you have to choose to keep living, even when it feels impossible. Adrian looked at her, and there was such tenderness in his eyes that it took her breath away. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, he said. Naomi shook her head. I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn. You're both, Adrian said with a small smile, and I'm grateful for it. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Adrian said something that changed everything. Naomi, I know we've been taking this slow, and I don't want to rush you or pressure you in any way, but I need you to know something. Naomi's heart began to race. What? Adrian turned to face her fully, taking both of her hands in his. I'm falling for you. I've been falling for you since the day I walked into your apartment and saw you fighting for your family with everything you had. And I know this is complicated. I know you have your kids to think about, and a whole life that I'm just stepping into. But I need you to know that this is real for me. You're real for me. Naomi felt tears streaming down her face before she even realized she was crying. Adrian, I'm scared, she whispered. I know, he said gently. So am I. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm not enough? What if my kids get attached and then you leave? Adrian reached up and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. I'm not going anywhere, Naomi. I know you've been hurt. I know you've lost people you love. But I'm here, and I'm staying, for as long as you'll have me. Naomi searched his eyes, looking for any sign of doubt, any hesitation. But all she saw was sincerity, truth, love. I'm falling for you too, she admitted, her voice breaking. And it terrifies me. Adrian smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. Then let's be terrified together. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But she didn't. Instead, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was soft and sweet and filled with all the emotions they'd been holding back. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling through their tears. This is crazy, Naomi said, laughing softly. The best things usually are, Adrian replied. But even as their relationship deepened, Naomi couldn't shake her fears. She worried about what people would think. A struggling single black mother dating a wealthy white CEO, she could already hear the whispers, the judgment, people saying she was using him for his money, people saying he was slumming it, playing savior. Those fears came to a head one afternoon when Naomi ran into an old acquaintance at the grocery store. Sheila, a woman from her old neighborhood, spotted her in the produce section. Naomi Carter? Girl, is that you? Sheila said loudly. Naomi forced a smile. Hey, Sheila, how are you? I'm good. But look at you. I heard you got some fancy new job, and word on the street is you're dating some rich white man. That true? Naomi's smile faltered. I'm seeing someone. Yes. Sheila raised an eyebrow. Well, good for you, I guess. Must be nice having someone to pay all your bills. The comment stung, even though Naomi knew it was rooted in jealousy and ignorance. It's not like that, Naomi said quietly. Sure it's not, Sheila said with a knowing smirk. Anyway, you take care now. As Sheila walked away, Naomi stood there feeling sick to her stomach. She knew she shouldn't let Sheila's words get to her, but they did. They fed into every insecurity she'd been carrying. That night, when Adrian came over for dinner, Naomi was quieter than usual. He noticed immediately. Everything okay? He asked as they washed dishes together after the kids went to bed. Naomi hesitated, then decided to be honest. I ran into someone today, someone from my old neighborhood, and she made a comment about us, about how I'm probably just with you for your money. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's ridiculous, is it? Naomi said, her voice small. Because sometimes I wonder if people are right, if this looks like some kind of charity case. Rich man swooping in to save the poor black woman and her kids. Adrian set down the dish he was washing and turned to face her fully. "Naomi, look at me." She did, reluctantly. "I don't care what anyone else thinks," Adrian said firmly. "I don't care what they say or what assumptions they make. The only opinions that matter are ours and your kids. That's it." "But what if they're right?" Naomi said, her voice breaking. "What if I am just using you? What if deep down I'm only with you because you make my life easier?" Adrian took her hands gently but firmly. "Do you love me?" Naomi's breath caught. They hadn't said those words yet. "Do you?" Adrian pressed gently. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Yes. God help me, yes, I do." "Then that's all that matters," Adrian said. "I love you too, Naomi. Not because I feel sorry for you, not because I'm trying to save you, but because you're strong and beautiful and kind, and you make me want to be a better man." Naomi sobbed and fell into his arms. He held her tight, letting her cry out all the fear and doubt she'd been carrying. "I'm sorry," she whispered against his chest. "I'm so sorry for doubting this." "Don't be sorry," Adrian said, kissing the top of her head. "Just trust me. Trust us." Naomi pulled back and looked up at him, her eyes red but clear. "I do trust you, and I love you. I really, really love you." Adrian smiled and kissed her forehead, then her cheeks, then finally her lips. "I love you too, and I'm not going anywhere." Despite Naomi's growing confidence in their relationship, the outside world continued to test them. Naomi's community was divided. Some people were genuinely happy for her, celebrating that she'd found love again. Others were skeptical, questioning Adrian's motives and Naomi's judgment. Mrs. Thompson, Naomi's neighbor who'd watched her kids for 2 years, was firmly in Naomi's corner. "That man is good to you and those babies," she told Naomi one afternoon. "Anyone with eyes can see he loves y'all. Don't let nobody make you feel bad about being happy." But not everyone was so supportive. Naomi's own mother, who lived 2 states away and hadn't been much help since Marcus died, had plenty to say when she found out. "A white man, Naomi? Really?" her mother said over the phone. "What would Marcus think?" The question gutted Naomi. "Marcus would want me to be happy, Mama. He would want the kids to be taken care of." Well, just don't come crying to me when he gets bored and moves on to someone from his own world." Naomi hung up feeling worse than before. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mother's words echoing in her mind. Around midnight, her phone buzzed. It was Adrian. "Can't sleep. Thinking about you. Everything okay?" Naomi smiled despite herself and typed back, "Can't sleep either. Lot on my mind." Her phone rang seconds later. She answered quietly so she wouldn't wake the kids. "Hey," she whispered. "Talk to me," Adrian said gently. "What's going on?" Naomi told him about her mother's call, about the doubts that kept creeping in, about the fear that maybe everyone else could see something she couldn't. Adrian listened to all of it without interrupting. When she finally finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Naomi, do you remember the first time I came to your apartment?" "Of course." "Do you remember what you said to me?" Naomi thought back. "I said a lot of things. You told me you weren't asking for the debt to disappear. You were just asking for a chance." Adrian said, "That's all I'm asking for too. A chance to prove that this is real, that we're real." Naomi felt tears slide down her cheeks in the darkness. "You've already proven that," she whispered. "Then believe it," Adrian said softly. "Believe in us, because I do." Naomi closed her eyes, letting his words wash over her. "I'm trying. That's all I ask," Adrian said. "Now try to get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow." "Good night, Adrian." "Good night, Naomi. I love you. I love you too." As Naomi hung up and finally drifted off to sleep, she held onto those words like a lifeline, because no matter what anyone else said, no matter what doubts tried to creep in, she knew one thing for certain. Adrian Cole loved her, and she loved him, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. If you're feeling everything Naomi and Adrian are going through right now, go ahead and hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen next. Can love really conquer doubt? Can 2 broken people build something beautiful together? 6 months into their relationship, Adrian and Naomi had settled into a rhythm that felt natural, even inevitable. Adrian spent most evenings at Naomi's apartment, helping with homework, cooking dinner, playing with the kids. On weekends, he'd take the whole family out to the park, to museums, to the aquarium. The children had stopped calling him Mr. Adrian and started just calling him Adrian, and sometimes, when Maya was particularly tired or happy, she'd slip and call him Daddy. The first time it happened, everyone froze. They were at the zoo, standing in front of the elephant enclosure. Maya was perched on Adrian's shoulders, her small hands gripping his hair for balance. "Daddy, look! The baby elephant is playing," she squealed. Adrian's steps faltered. Naomi's breath caught. Even Zara and Elijah went quiet. Maya didn't seem to notice the sudden tension. She just kept pointing excitedly at the elephants. Adrian gently lifted Maya down from his shoulders and knelt in front of her, his eyes searching hers with a tenderness that made Naomi's heart ache. "Maya, sweetheart, I'm not your daddy," he said gently. "Your daddy was a wonderful man who loved you very much. His name was Marcus, remember?" Maya's bottom lip trembled. "I know, but he's in heaven, and you're here, and you play with us and read us stories and make Mama smile. Isn't that what daddies do?" Adrian's eyes filled with tears. He pulled Maya into a hug, holding her tight. "Yes, baby, that's what daddies do." When he looked up at Naomi over Maya's shoulder, his face was asking a silent question. "Is this okay? Are we okay?" Naomi nodded, tears streaming down her face, because in that moment she realized something profound. Loving Adrian didn't mean forgetting Marcus. It didn't mean replacing him or erasing what they'd had. It meant honoring Marcus's memory by choosing to live fully, to love again, to give her children a chance at happiness. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Naomi and Adrian sat together on her small couch, both of them emotionally exhausted. "I'm sorry if I overstepped," Adrian said quietly. "I should have talked to you about how to handle something like that before it happened." Naomi shook her head. "You handled it perfectly. You honored Marcus. You honored Maya's feelings. You honored us." "She called me Daddy," Adrian said, his voice thick with emotion. "And part of me wanted to correct her immediately because I know I'm not. I know I can never replace him. But another part of me..." He trailed off. "Another part of you what?" Naomi prompted gently. Adrian looked at her, vulnerability written all over his face. "Another part of me wanted to be that for them, for her, for Elijah and Zara. I know I have no right to even think that, but I can't help it. I love those kids, Naomi. I love them like they're mine." Naomi's tears came fresh and fast. She took his face in her hands. "You do have the right. You've earned that right, by showing up every single day, by loving them without expecting anything in return, by being present and patient and kind." "But Marcus," Adrian started. "Marcus would want this," Naomi said firmly. "He would want our children to be loved, to be happy, to have a man in their lives who treats them with respect and care. He would want me to be happy too. I know he would." Adrian pulled her into his arms, and they sat there holding each other, grieving and healing at the same time. "I want to be more than just your boyfriend," Adrian said after a long silence. "I want to be part of this family, really part of it." Naomi pulled back to look at him. "What are you saying?" Adrian took a deep breath. "I'm saying I want to marry you, Naomi. I want to adopt those kids if you'll let me. I want to build a life with all of you, a real life, a real family." Naomi's heart felt like it might burst. "Adrian, are you sure? This is a lot. 3 kids, all the baggage that comes with me, the judgment from people who don't understand. I've never been more sure of anything in my life," Adrian said. "I don't care what anyone else thinks. I care about you. I care about Elijah, Zara, and Maya. You 4 are my family now, and I want to make it official." Naomi laughed through her tears. "Is this a proposal?" Adrian smiled sheepishly. "Not officially. I want to do it right, with a ring and the kids present, because this isn't just about you and me. It's about all of us." "When?" Naomi asked, her heart racing. "Soon," Adrian promised. "Very soon." 2 weeks later, Adrian took Naomi and the kids to Stone Mountain Park. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon, the sky clear and blue, the weather perfect. They hiked up to a scenic overlook, the kids running ahead with boundless energy, while Adrian and Naomi followed at a more leisurely pace. When they reached the top, Adrian had already arranged for a picnic to be set up. There was a blanket, a basket of food, and balloons tied to the trees. "Whoa!" Elijah shouted. "This is so cool." The kids immediately ran to explore, while Adrian guided Naomi to the blanket. "What's all this?" she asked, though her heart was already pounding because she suspected she knew. "Just a little surprise," Adrian said with a smile. They ate lunch together, the five of them laughing and talking and enjoying the view. And then, when the moment felt right, Adrian stood up and called the kids over. "Hey guys, can you come here for a second? I need to talk to you about something important." All three children gathered around, their faces curious. Adrian knelt down so he was at their eye level, and then he looked up at Naomi. "Naomi, from the moment I walked into your apartment and saw you fighting for your family, I knew you were someone special. You showed me what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. And these three amazing kids showed me that my heart wasn't as broken as I thought it was, that I could love again, that I could be part of something beautiful." Naomi's hands were shaking. Tears were already streaming down her face. Adrian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The kids gasped. "Mama, is he doing what I think he's doing?" Zara whispered loudly. Adrian smiled at her, then turned back to Naomi. "Naomi Carter, I love you with everything I have. And I love Elijah, Zara, and Maya just as much. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy, keeping you safe, and being the man you and your children deserve. Will you marry me?" He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful diamond ring that caught the sunlight and sparkled like a promise. Naomi couldn't speak. She could only nod frantically, tears pouring down her face. "Is that a yes?" Adrian asked, his own voice breaking with emotion. "Yes," Naomi finally managed to choke out. "Yes, yes, yes." Adrian stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms. The kids erupted in cheers, jumping up and down and screaming with excitement. "We're getting married," Maya shouted to no one in particular. Elijah tugged on Adrian's pants. "Does this mean you're going to be our dad now?" Adrian knelt back down, his voice thick with emotion. "If that's okay with you guys." "Yes!" All three children shouted in unison, throwing themselves at him in a group hug. Naomi watched through her tears as Adrian wrapped his arms around her children, all of them laughing and crying and holding each other tight. And in that moment, she felt Marcus's presence so strongly it took her breath away. Not in a sad way, but in a peaceful way, like he was there, watching, smiling, giving his blessing. "Thank you," she thought silently. "Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me these beautiful babies. And thank you for watching over us until we found our way to this moment." The next few months were a whirlwind of wedding planning, house hunting, and merging two very different lives into one. Adrian wanted to buy them a mansion, but Naomi put her foot down. "We don't need a mansion," she told him firmly. "We need a home, something comfortable but not excessive, something where the kids can grow up normal." They compromised on a beautiful 4-bedroom house in a quiet, diverse neighborhood with good schools and a big backyard. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was safe and warm and filled with light. Naomi's community had mixed reactions to the engagement. Mrs. Thompson cried happy tears and immediately started planning a shower. Some of Naomi's co-workers at the foundation were thrilled. Others were skeptical, still convinced that Adrian had some ulterior motive. But the hardest conversation was with Naomi's mother. Naomi called her one evening after the kids were in bed, steeling herself for the judgment she knew was coming. "Mama, I have some news. Adrian asked me to marry him, and I said yes." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "You're really going through with this?" her mother finally said. "It wasn't a question." "I am," Naomi replied. "I love him, Mama, and he loves me and the kids. He's good to us." "What about Marcus? You're just going to forget about him?" "I could never forget Marcus," Naomi said, her voice breaking. "He gave me 3 beautiful children and years of love, but he's gone, Mama, and I can't spend the rest of my life alone, grieving what I lost. Marcus would want me to be happy. He would want the kids to have a father figure." Her mother sighed. "I just don't want you to get hurt, baby. Rich men like that, they don't usually stick around." "Adrian isn't like that," Naomi said firmly. "He's been here through everything, Through the hard days, the doubts, the struggles, he's not going anywhere. I hope you're right, her mother said quietly. I am right, Naomi said, and I hope you'll come to the wedding. I hope you'll give him a chance, because he's going to be part of this family, and I need you to accept that. Another long pause. I'll think about it, her mother finally said. It wasn't the acceptance Naomi had hoped for, but it was something. The wedding was small and intimate, held in a garden venue with just close friends and family. Naomi wore a simple white dress that made her feel beautiful without being over the top. The kids were part of the ceremony. Elijah and Zara walked Naomi down the aisle, and Maya was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously as she scattered petals with intense concentration. Adrian stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, and when he saw Naomi walking toward him with her children by her side, he broke down and cried. The officiant kept the ceremony short and sweet, but there was one moment that everyone would remember. After Adrian and Naomi exchanged their vows, Adrian turned to the children. Elijah, Zara, Maya, I want to make a promise to you too. I promise to love you, protect you, support you, and be there for you always. I promise to honor your father's memory and make sure you know how much he loved you. And I promise to do my very best to be the dad you deserve. Do you accept my promise? All three children nodded solemnly. We do, Zara said, speaking for all of them. Adrian knelt down and hugged each of them, and there wasn't a dry eye in the garden. When the officiant finally pronounced them husband and wife, the entire gathering erupted in applause. Adrian kissed Naomi deeply, then scooped up Maya and Elijah, while Zara hugged Naomi's waist, and they all stood there together as a family for the first time. Naomi's mother had come to the wedding after all. She stood in the back, watching quietly, and when Naomi caught her eye, her mother gave her a small nod and the tiniest smile. It was enough. The reception was joyful and loud, filled with music, laughter, and dancing. Adrian danced with each of the kids individually, spinning them around until they were dizzy with giggles, and when he finally took Naomi in his arms for their first dance as husband and wife, he whispered in her ear, "Thank you for giving me a second chance at life. Thank you for giving me a reason to believe in love again," Naomi whispered back. They swayed together, surrounded by the people who mattered most, and for the first time in years, Naomi felt completely, entirely at peace. 1 year after the wedding, the Cole family had settled into their new normal. Adrian had legally adopted all three children, a process that had required mountains of paperwork but was worth every second when he saw his name listed as their father on the official documents. The foundation that had brought Naomi and Adrian together had grown significantly. They'd renamed it the Second Chance Initiative and expanded its reach to help hundreds of families across Atlanta get back on their feet. Naomi ran the day-to-day operations while Adrian handled the funding and strategic partnerships. But they'd also added something new to the foundation's mission, a scholarship fund named after Marcus Carter, specifically for children who had lost a parent and needed financial support for education. At the first scholarship ceremony, Naomi stood at the podium with Adrian beside her, looking out at a room full of families who had experienced the same kind of loss her family had. "My late husband, Marcus, was a dreamer," Naomi began, her voice steady and strong. "He believed that hard work and love could build a better future, and even though he's no longer here, his legacy lives on, through our children, through this foundation, and now through all of you." She paused, looking at Adrian, who gave her an encouraging nod. 2 years ago, I was drowning in debt, in grief, in fear that I was failing my children. I didn't know how I was going to make it through another day, let alone another year. But then someone showed me kindness when I least expected it. Someone saw my struggle and chose to help rather than judge. Someone reminded me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. She looked directly at Adrian. That someone became my husband, and together we want to make sure that other families get the same chance we did, the chance to rebuild, the chance to hope, the chance to thrive. The room erupted in applause, and Naomi stepped back from the podium, wiping away tears. Later that evening, back at home, Naomi found Adrian in the backyard, watching the kids play on their new swing set. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Just how different my life is now compared to 2 years ago." Adrian said, covering her hands with his. 2 years ago, I was alone in that big empty penthouse, convinced that work was all I had left, that I'd never feel anything real again. And now, Naomi asked. Adrian turned in her arms and pulled her close. Now I have everything I never knew I needed. A wife who challenges me and inspires me. 3 kids who make every day an adventure. A purpose that goes beyond profit margins and board meetings. We're lucky to have you too, Naomi said softly. I'm the lucky one, Adrian insisted. He kissed her forehead. You saved me, Naomi, just as much as I helped you. We saved each other, Naomi corrected. They stood there together, watching as Elijah pushed Maya on the swing while Zara read a book under the big oak tree. It was an ordinary moment, a simple moment, but it was theirs. Mama, Adrian, come, push us, Elijah called out. Duty calls, Naomi said with a smile. Hand in hand, they walked across the yard to their children, ready for whatever came next, because they'd learned that life wasn't about having all the answers or never facing struggles. It was about facing those struggles together, about building something beautiful out of broken pieces, about choosing love even when it scared you, especially when it scared you. 5 years later, the Cole family had grown in ways none of them could have imagined. The Second Chance initiative had expanded to 5 cities across the country, helping thousands of families escape the cycle of debt and poverty. Elijah was now 9, a confident and energetic kid who wanted to be an engineer. Zara was 11, top of her class, and already talking about college. Maya was 10, still believing in magic but now channeling it into art and storytelling. And Adrian and Naomi had added one more member to their family, a little girl named Hope, born 3 years after their wedding, named after Adrian's first daughter, but alive and healthy and a perfect blend of both her parents. One evening, as the whole family gathered around the dinner table, a tradition they'd maintained no matter how busy life got, Zara asked a question that stopped everyone in their tracks. Adrian, do you ever miss your old life? Before us? The table went quiet. Even little Hope, who was usually a chatterbox, stopped talking. Adrian set down his fork and looked at Zara with complete sincerity. Not even for a second, he said. My old life was successful, yes. I had money and power and influence, but I was empty. I was going through the motions without really living. You all taught me what life is actually about. Connection, love, family, purpose. I wouldn't trade this chaos for anything in the world. Even when Elijah put slime in your shoes? Maya asked innocently. Everyone burst out laughing, including Adrian. Even then, he said, shooting Elijah a mock stern look. Though we're still not over that, buddy. Elijah grinned sheepishly. Sorry, Dad. Dad. The word still made Adrian's heart skip a beat every single time. After dinner, after the kids were in bed and Hope was asleep in her crib, Adrian and Naomi sat together on their back porch, looking up at the stars. Do you think Marcus would approve? Naomi asked quietly. It was a question she asked sometimes, usually late at night when her defenses were down. I think Marcus loved you enough to want you to be happy, Adrian said. I think he'd be grateful that someone is here to love his children and take care of his wife. And I think he'd be proud of the woman you've become and the life you've built. Naomi leaned her head on his shoulder. I still talk to him sometimes. Tell him about the kids, about you, about everything. I know, Adrian said, and I think that's beautiful. He'll always be part of this family, Naomi. Always. They sat in comfortable silence. 2 people who had found each other in the most unexpected way, who had built something extraordinary out of pain and loss and hope. You know what I was thinking today, Naomi said. What? That day you showed up at my apartment. I was so scared, so convinced that you were there to take everything away from me. And in a way, you did. Adrian frowned. What do you mean? Naomi smiled. You took away my fear, my loneliness, my belief that I had to do everything alone. You took away the walls I'd built around my heart and replaced them with love. Adrian's eyes filled with tears. Naomi, I came into your life to collect a debt, Adrian had once told a reporter who asked about their love story. But she gave me something far more valuable. She gave me a family. She gave me purpose. She gave me a reason to believe that second chances are real. And now, Sitting on their porch with the woman he loved more than life itself, Adrian knew without a doubt that he'd been given the greatest gift of all. Not wealth, not success, not power, but love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. The years continued to pass, and the Cole family's story became something of a legend in Atlanta. People would point them out at community events, at the foundation's annual fundraisers, at school functions. "That's the family," they'd whisper. "The one where the millionaire fell in love with the single mom he was supposed to be collecting from." Some people saw it as a fairy tale. Others saw it as proof that good things could happen to good people. But Adrian and Naomi saw it differently. They saw it as proof that love doesn't always look the way you expect it to, that sometimes the person who changes your life walks in during your darkest moment. That being vulnerable enough to accept help is its own kind of strength. And that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other, day after day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Adrian surprised Naomi with a trip back to the old apartment building where they'd first met. The building had been renovated, part of a community development project funded by their foundation, but the structure was the same. They stood outside apartment 2C, holding hands. "This is where it all started," Adrian said softly. "This is where you saved my life," Naomi corrected. "No," Adrian said, turning to face her. "This is where you saved mine." Naomi smiled through her tears. "I think we saved each other." Adrian pulled her close and kissed her, right there on the steps where he'd first knocked on her door, where he'd first seen her children, where his entire life had changed in an instant. "Best debt I ever tried to collect," he whispered against her lips. Naomi laughed. "Best decision I ever made was opening that door." They walked back to their car, hand in hand, ready to go home to their children, to their life, to the beautiful, imperfect, extraordinary family they'd built together. Because in the end, that's what love is. Not a fairy tale, not a rescue, but two broken people choosing to heal together. Two different worlds colliding and creating something entirely new. Two hearts that had every reason to stay closed, deciding to open one more time. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to change everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment and tell me what moment affected you the most. Was it when Maya first called Adrian Daddy? When he proposed? When they honored Marcus's memory? I want to hear from you. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. We share stories about love, resilience, second chances, and the beautiful ways that life can surprise us when we least expect it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Remember, your struggle today might be someone else's miracle tomorrow. The debt you're drowning in might be the doorway to your greatest blessing, and the person who changes your life might show up in the most unexpected way. Thank you for watching Naomi and Adrian's story. Thank you for believing in love, and thank you for being part of this community. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is open your heart and let someone in. Because you never know, the stranger at your door today might become your family tomorrow.